Life is all about relationships. Lovers, family, body, or money. How satisfied you are can be completely explained by how you relate to things around you. This is Sophie Jaffe, and together with my husband, Dr. Adi Jaffe, we are here to explore and teach you how to maximize your relationships and achieve a happier life. Let's get ignited.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to this episode of the Ignited Podcast. My name is Adi Jaffe.
I'm Sophie Jaffe.
And we are here today to talk about relationships in the context of changing dynamics, supporting your partner, all this stuff that can happen in everyday life when you're in a relationship that nobody really warned you about when you first signed up, and then it becomes just part of your reality.
Yeah, growing together through the changes of a relationship, the ebbs and flows, and really just being there for your person as they change maybe careers, or as they change their desires, as they change what they like, what they don't like.
I think this is one of those big things that nobody talks about before you get into a relationship, because you meet your person and you are in one phase of your life. And because some of us were young, some of us are less young when we met our partner, we kind of just assume it's going to keep going that way. And then inevitably it doesn't. Because, so we're going to talk to Kelly, Be Well by Kelly today. And it's really funny because we didn't really talk about nutrition at all.
Which I love.
Yeah. We just talked about relationships.
Yeah. I can talk about nutrition until I'm blue in the face, but what I really care about is what's underneath it all, and the truth and the rawness and the vulnerability of human nature. And that's crazy, but that's totally what I want in these conversations. And that's what we ended up talking about. Not that I couldn't talk to her for hours about nutrition.
Sure.
But it's kind of more surface level to me.
Yeah. And it mirrored a lot of the stuff that we had gone through in our relationship, right?
Yeah.
We met, you were an undergrad, I was a grad student. I was in my 30s, and I sort of figured out, I guess, late 20s?
Late 20s.
I was in my late 20s.
Yeah. I think you lied to me about how old you were.
I said I was younger?
I think you...
I wouldn't have said I was older.
Yeah, I guess you said you were younger.
Like a year younger or something?
I think you said you were like 27, and then I saw on your MySpace, dun dun dun.
MySpace. Shout out to MySpace.
Yeah, that you were actually 29. Yeah, because I was 20 and a half.
Or whatever, yeah.
So you were 29.
Sophie for sure used a fake ID the first time we all went out to dinner.
Hell yeah.
So she can get a drink.
Representing.
Yeah. Fortunately, that was like 8 months later, I think you were legal. So we went through that too. So you were an undergrad, and then you were getting to graduate, like a couple of years in our relationship, you were graduating, and you had no idea what you wanted to do. So you're kind of floating around, but I was very set in my way. Like I had this whole career path ahead of me, and it caused problems for us. Because I was like, wait, what do you mean? You were like jumping around from volunteer opportunity. It really created some tensions for us, even early in our relationships. And I think a lot of couples go through this. We get emails from couples that kind of say we grew apart and now we don't really know how to reconnect. And it's like a daily thing. It's, I feel like it's one of those things where you have to keep maintaining what you're doing and connecting with your partner on some deeper level in order to make sure that you're able to, I don't want to say like necessarily grow with them in the exact same direction they're going in, but evolve together.
Absolutely. You have to. And you have to go with the ebbs and flows of life and relationships and change, and stand there with your person and support them through sometimes some risks that can be really scary. We went through that with you. We have lots of stages of that, We had when, like you said, when I was volunteering out of college and I wasn't sure what I wanted to do, but I knew that I didn't want to go down that normal, typical path that everyone does when you're an undergrad of, psychology. You go down the path of getting your master's and you become an MFT, and there's just this path that you do, especially if you go to UCLA.
Yeah, it's probably one path, but there are a bunch of those.
But it's the most popular.
Okay.
It's the most popular way to go, and I was like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to sit with clients one-on-one for the rest of my life in an office. It's not my personality.
Right.
I knew that I would feel trapped, and I wasn't really clear on what I wanted to do. So instead of freaking out and picking a path and, you know, applying to schools right out of undergrad, I decided to take a break and trust that the universe would help guide me. And that freaked you the fuck out.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I don't really feel like you supported me through that. So I think we were young. I think that was a mistake, but it's also just what we went through. And I think what's really inspiring is the way Kelly and her husband stuck through each other through these painful moments. Not that it wasn't hard, but they didn't break up over it. He wasn't, you know, shaming her because she wanted to break free of this more typical standard path.
To be fair, Kelly moved from a corporate career into nutrition. Like she knew, she was like, when she jumped ship, she knew this is what I want to do. And he jumped ship. What's interesting about their story is they both did it at the same time.
But there was no guarantee, is all I'm saying.
No, of course, there's never a guarantee.
Like she put all this money and time into schooling and books and like totally revamped her entire life. And I think there's something to be said for just trusting, kind of like when you wanted to make a change and no longer work for other people and you wanted to open your own practice. And I was like, whatever you need to do, whatever.
It actually wasn't even like that, if I can be honest. You actually pushed me to quit. I was working like 5 jobs. Yeah. And you actually pushed me to quit a lot of them. So
because you were miserable.
Yeah. And I think that's what you do. That's really something that is important to kind of look at. Is what I think is inspiring about their story is they both made a huge change at the same time, which is, you know, it's hard. We have an episode that you and I did about being entrepreneurs together, which is kind of what they tried to do. Yeah. It's a challenge. It's a challenge to not have a strong base. And then
I think the biggest mistake that you could ever make, if you read any business magazine, it's all about like, make sure one person in the coupleship has a stable paycheck coming in. And we totally defy that. And I don't suggest that to anyone. I think it's been like one of the biggest stressors in our relationship is that we had no financial security, like little bits, like you working at UCLA, but that was like nothing.
Yeah.
And I think...
What do you mean in LA? $2,000 a month is a totally supportable
totally
job.
Fine for a family of 4. But yeah, I feel like we defied that. I don't regret that because we both were following our dreams and make us who we are. And we're so sparky and ignited and full of passion about what we do.
We should have a podcast called Ignited.
Oh my God.
Okay, next up.
Yeah. So yeah, I feel like we're not an example necessarily.
But you're the person, because you're the person that's pushing me to do that. Honestly.
Absolutely. Like but I'm just saying, like, if you read any business magazine, they tell 100%. You make sure one person has a stable income.
Yeah, and so we talk about this a lot, but you're definitely the more like, oh, let's just do whatever, and the world will catch to jump us.
Yeah, just try.
That nothing that I just said made sense. What was that? The world just would catch to jump us.
Leap, and the net will appear.
Not at all what I said. Wow, your parents are gonna love this piece. Your parents have like a list of when people destroy sayings. That was a good one by me.
That was a good one.
We'll have to, now it's recorded, so we have it forever. But you're the one that trusts in that way. I'm much, much more careful. And so we kind of try to balance each other in that way. But I've definitely only been able to take some of the leaps because you were there to support me, at least emotionally.
Absolutely.
Because I grew up on security.
Yep.
I grew up on 100% security. Like have a job, know what you're doing tomorrow, know where your paychecks are coming from, you know, all that kind of stuff.
And I come from a family of entrepreneurs and uncertainty and creatives and artists. And, you know, like it wasn't about the paycheck. It's about doing what you love.
Yeah, for your dad, it's definitely not about the paycheck.
No.
To this day.
Or for my mom. Like my mom also does her own thing and had her own practice growing up. Like she saw all my friends as patients and had her own little practice in the middle of Main Street in Boonesboro, you know, like they both just kind of did what they did and loved what they did. My mom is in her 60s and still does and still is working, you know, full time. And my dad, same thing. He's in his 70s and he still travels the world with a camera on his back. Sometimes he doesn't make any money on those films, but he loves what he does. And that's so inspiring. And I'm lucky enough that in this moment in time where I sit, I'm actually making good money doing what I love for the first time in a decade.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, there were years where you made $0.
I made $0 for a long time. And I was, you know, working for philosophy and loving what I was doing. And I've still to this day, there's nothing I'd rather do than work on philosophy. It just doesn't bring me a lot of money.
Sure.
And so I've found other creative ways as an influencer or acting or modeling or pretty much a million other things, but it works. It works for me.
So here's the difference. And this is not whatever. I'll just say it the way it comes out and we can talk about it. When you found that spark, when you connected to the thing you wanted to do, even though it brought no money for like 4 or 5 years, I was all in.
You were still supportive of it because you saw it.
Because you loved it, right? And I think that's what we've found in each other is like when we see the passion in the other person, we'll do whatever it takes to support that.
I think that's what an entrepreneur really is, though. I mean, truly at the core of being an entrepreneur, it's being able to be scrappy, a fucking hustler without the guarantee of any financial security.
But here's what I'm saying. If you can take that into your relationship.
Absolutely.
And what I'm saying by that is support in your partner their real spark, whatever it is they really want to do. Because even if it brings you less money than the other job, the other position, the other track, the level of happiness and intimacy that it builds for you because you're there for them to support their light will make your relationship and the rest of your life better.
Absolutely. Like we've never, even when we had all that money, those money issues not that long ago, like I think we were struggling and fighting about money 6 months ago.
When we moved into this place.
Yeah. So
a year ago.
1 year ago, we were still fighting about money and that was the primary thing, but it wasn't about our happiness. We were like, we are so happy in every other area,
Totally.
but there's this one thing we keep fucking fighting and struggling over and it sucks.
Yeah.
But does it matter?
Yeah, so we know that topic, right? Like money is one of the things people fight about more than anything. And that's what can lead you to just taking those jobs and doing the things you don't really want to do. So I love that entrepreneurial kind of piece. And when you listen to Kelly and her husband's story, they do this. They entrepreneur, they hack the way of doing this. He wanted to become a writer. Well, guess what? He's helping her write. Because she wanted to be a nutritionist, not a writer, but she needed to write a book. So like all these things, you just kind of figure out how to make it work. I would create your spreadsheets when philosophy started because you don't want to work with numbers. So like do that for your partner. Figure out how to come in there and become whatever they need to support their light.
Well, and that's the beauty of marrying or being in a relationship with someone that isn't exactly like you. That's the beauty is that your strengths and your weaknesses can balance each other. Like
hopefully they do.
Yeah. Like where you're more like, math and science oriented and I'm more artistic and creative and I'm more free flowing and you're more, more like grounded with your feet on the earth. Like all those things help each other so that we can be the best versions of who we are.
And I think that brings us into our relationship tip for today. And
you guys.
This is the one you really wanted to talk about.
Okay,
and so this is a saying.
This is huge. This is a concept that that honestly was probably one of the top 5 things that healed Adi and I through all of our traumas. If you've read anything about us, you can look up Sophie Jaffe, husband, sex addict online. And about like 5 or more huge articles will come up. There's a women's health article. There's a Mind Body Green article. There's a bunch. And if you look that up, you'll see all these different articles and all the struggles that we went through. And we will get into that in a very long episode soon, we promise. We just wanted to get you to trust us first before we scare you away. So we went through a lot of hell. And this is, I swear to you, one of the top 5 things. This concept, what Adi is about to share with you, is one of the things that once we mastered it, or at least applied it, not even mastered it.
Yeah, we're still mastering it.
Just practiced it once in a while when things were hard. That's when the magic happened. That's when the breakthroughs happened for us.
Well, I feel like, ironically, we even did it in the conversation leading up to this, and I can share why I think that is. But so the concept is that you have to start getting comfortable going in for the punch. And I'll explain that a little bit. But what happens in fighting for most couples, especially if there's like a trauma that happened, if there's something big that happened that created a difficulty, is we get really comfortable at defending ourselves, literally like putting our hands up like a boxer or punching. So we're either attacking or we're defending. And what ends up happening, what that creates, a dynamic that creates in a relationship, is that you're always either on the defensive or you're attacking your partner, when that's always the opposite of what they need. So what they actually want is the building of intimacy and love, even if they're not postured for it, even if they don't look like it, even if they're blaming you for being a piece of shit. What they want is more love. And one partner has to figure that out and start going in even when they're getting punched. And it feels like the most unnatural thing, because you want to defend yourself, but instead you put your arms down and you go in knowing it's going to hurt, knowing you're going to get beat up, knowing you're going to get insulted, knowing you're going to be ashamed of whatever it is that's coming at you. But what that ends up doing for you is it ends up allowing you to actually have the conversation that is under the fight. And so initially, as you hurl insults at each other or point out things you've done wrong, each person listening right now has gone through this in a relationship, and you start feeling all the shame. I'm not good enough. This is never going to last. I'm always going to be alone. This person is not the right person for me. How could they do this to me? All that stuff. And you can listen, right? As you even hear that, you're either being defensive, right? Is, oh my God, I'm not good enough or whatever. And you're defending yourself. Or you're being attacking and you're saying, what is wrong with this person that they would say this to me? I can't be with this kind of person if they're going to be assholes like this. What I'm saying is you stop all of that and you put your hands down and you say, I'm sorry. You say, I apologize that I made you feel that way.
What do you need?
You say, what do you need to feel better?
What do you need to feel safe?
And you take yourself out of the equation. You're not putting up a fight anymore.
It's not about you.
You're supporting them in whatever they go through. And the magic of being able to do that, it doesn't stop the fight right away. The other person might still be really mad at you and hurling insults.
She might be defensive. He might be defensive. It might still be really rough. But the minute you put your gloves down, magic can happen.
Yeah, and then you start building intimacy. I mean, even so, when we were doing this episode, that's where the examples came in for me. You were saying something that felt negative to me, and I got a little ashamed about it, that I didn't support you. And you're 100% right, by the way. I did not support you when you were like trying to early on figure out what to do.
Well, because you didn't know me well. Like I know that I shouldn't make excuses for you, but because I know you so well, I do make excuses for you. And I think it takes two for everything. And in the beginning of our relationship, you didn't trust that I had that magic.
I was scared. I was scared that you were going to now be aimless.
Yeah. Which isn't even possible for me now that if anyone knows me.
But here's the magic, right? The reason that we can even have this conversation now is I felt shame as soon as you brought that up, because it was not something that I liked looking at myself, that I wasn't there for you.
Yeah.
Normally, if we hadn't done all the work, I would feel ashamed and I would either attack you or I would shut down because you said something not quote unquote nice that made me feel bad. Mm-hmm. What I did instead was I felt secure enough to bring up the way I saw it. And then we get to have a conversation, and and even if you bring up things that I don't like about the way I acted, they don't mean that I'm not a good person, because we've now had, just like you just said, you now know how to trust me, etc.
Absolutely. And we're a team. That's what it comes down to, is you're putting your gloves down with this concept and going in for a hug and not going, you're being punched over and over again. Probably the woman is punching the shit out of you because she's angry about whatever.
Sometimes literally, by the way.
Sometimes literally. And you're just taking each punch and going in for love. That's the deepest part, is that you're not just putting your gloves down and being submissive. You're not just letting her yell at you. You're also being loving towards her.
You're providing what the other person really wants.
She wants and needs love, support, to be held, not to be judged, and just to feel safe. Women especially just want to feel safe. And there are so many reasons that we have all been so triggered. Ex-boyfriends that have been abusive, fathers who have hit us. Like, the list goes on and on and on and on. And women just need to feel safe. And sometimes it's the male. Sometimes the male needs to feel safe. I've had to go in plenty of times and put my gloves down and just hug you and love you. And sometimes you reject me, and sometimes you push me away because you don't initially think you want love, but we all want love. Or
you're not ready to accept it. And that's the key. The key of actually implementing this thing is, just like we talked about in the other relationship tip when we talked about not having contempt. This is not about them going, oh my God, thank you so much for realizing this and giving me the love I wanted. they're probably not going to say it.
No.
That's not why you're doing it. You're doing it because you know what they want and need, and you're providing that for them, even if they're hitting you at the same time.
Yeah, it's not about closure. It's not about you getting what you need and just fixing and patching up the issue. That's not what it's about. It's messy. It's not cute. It's not fun.
Yeah.
But you go in and you hug and you love that person even when they're still putting up a fight, and you will see the change.
It's magical. This is by itself a really, really big tip, and it for sure has helped our relationship quite a bit. Cool. We hope that was useful for you guys. Let us talk about our 5 fans of the week. I always love this thing. We have Harp K.I. I think that's how I say your name. I'm sorry if I'm messing it up. Then we have Lou, L-U-U-U-U-U-U-U-U. Obs88, the Athleisurely Life. I love that, Athleisurely Life. And AJ Knopf. Thank you guys so much for the tips, for the reviews, for all that kind of stuff. We love it when we hear that from you.
Please leave reviews on our podcast, and also give us feedback. If you're someone that you want to hear on here, if there's something you liked, if there's something you didn't like, we love hearing from you.
Absolutely. Again, I'm going to give it a little shout out before Philosophy gets on here for my Ignited Recovery course at www.ignitedrecovery.com.
Yes.
People who struggle with sex addiction go on there and tell me how much of a change it's made in their life. It fights the shame. It gets into the underlying reasons. If you know somebody who's struggling, go in there.
Even if you like the AA model, even if that's, something that you think works for you, this treatment is so much cheaper than any other treatment you could ever go to with any other modality. And you're doing it from the comfort of your own home, in your pajamas.
Anytime.
Yeah, anytime.
You get access forever, essentially. You get a year worth of this access for this stuff. It's pretty incredible. I get emails on a regular basis from people just talking about the change that it creates. I'm really, really excited that it's out there. Check it out if you know anybody who needs help, or if you need help yourself. Thank you for tuning in. See you next week.
Bye.
This episode of the Ignited podcast is brought to you by Philosophy Superfoods. The Philosophy offers cleanses and other nutritional products that are unlike any of the other supplements and detoxification programs on the market. Why? Because they actually nourish the body with whole, live, nutrient-rich foods instead of depriving you and leaving you hungry. Have you ever tried a cleanse only to find out that you can't make it through a whole day because you're starving? Ever try a superfood shake that made you nauseous because it was so disgusting you'd rather not eat? The Philosophy fix all that with a simple set of offerings that load up your body with nutrients while actually tasting good. Makes sense, right? Each of the Philosophy superfood and protein blends is vegan, raw, gluten-free, and has absolutely no filler ingredients. With over 15,000 satisfied customers, including some of the world's biggest celebrities like George Clooney, Gerard Butler, Lea Michele, and over 10 years of experience, this is the best stuff you can get. To buy some or find out more info, go to our website, thephilosophy.com.
All right. Welcome to our interview section. We've got Kelly in the house.
What? What's up, guys?
I feel like I just want to call you Be Well by Kelly.
Yeah, you call me whatever you want.
At Be Well by Kelly? Do you want to call her at Be Well by Kelly?
Just at Be Well by, which is your Instagram handle, we should say to everybody who is tuning in.
Go follow her for nutrition and inspiration.
And awesome celebrity shots.
Yeah.
You now have like an entire reservoir of those.
Every once in a while. Yeah, they're all pretty tight. So you get the referrals and you're like, wait, who do you want me to talk to? Okay. I'll try not to be a weirdo when I get to their house.
Oh my God, I've had that experience so many times. You're like, calm down. It's okay. Not that big a deal. They're just human. And you're like, you walk in. But once you get to know them, it's like, boom, 5 seconds and then they're just another human being. I love it.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
So if you've known Kelly for a little while, maybe like a couple of weeks.
A couple of years. We play in the same sandbox.
Yeah, I think we were invited to it was so cute. We were invited to this Pilates Platinum event. And I think I had probably just popped over 25,000. And they were like, oh yeah, we'll just invite this girl who's Instagramming her food. And then I get there and Sophie's on on the Precor thing, or what, not the Precor, but the Reformer, and both of your boys are just like in, like, I don't know, like cloud and star tights, like trying to do the moves with her on the machine.
That sounds like our family.
Super mom. It was amazing. I was like, who is this fairy dust woman? And how can I be friends with her?
Day in the life.
Yeah. That sounds exactly like our family.
We definitely don't spend enough time together, considering we're in the same city, the same circles, and we love each other. So we'll have to make up for that.
We will.
Yeah, no doubt. And I, obviously both in sort of the alternative nutrition thing, et cetera, but when we created Ignited as a podcast, our goal was really to focus on relationships. And there's the obvious piece that we'll obviously get to at some point, because not only are you married, but you kind of work with your husband. So that's kind of cool. But, the way we look at life in general is everything's about relationships.
For sure.
The way, your nutrition is the way you relate to your food, and the way you relate to your body and your wellness and your overall health. And, when it comes to your relationship with other people, it's not only about that. It's also about how much you respect yourself and your relationship to yourself, and all these kind of things come out. And so we do want to talk about the food and your amazing book, which is doing really well, and all these great things you're doing. But in it, I think what we'll end up finding is just that the magic, for somebody to be able to do what you've done up to now, there's got to be this magic that happens in your relationship to other people, to food, to your clients, and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. So what I'd love to hear about is, how did you get started? How did you find this route?
Yeah. Well, I would say that it's like my love for nutrition started at a really young age. Like I fell in love with nutrition in high school with my first class, which was health. And then when I was at USC, I'm one of three girls. My dad is awesome. My mom is awesome. But like, my dad went to USC for business school. And so I wanted to do what my dad did. And didn't really think about what I wanted to do I don't think I really thought about it at 17. I went to college young, and my dad was just like, okay, like, I don't think I really applied very many other places either. So I ended up at SC, and Nature of Human Health and Disease was my absolute favorite class. Like, I think I was like number one in the class, and I'm not a straight A student. Like, my husband was like the straight A student valedictorian. I'm like, hi, I'm the ASB girl, and I'd like to just be involved. And, but that class it just stuck with me, and kind of had a freak out moment. Went home and was like, I think I need to be pre-med. My dad was like, yeah, well, I'm not paying for it because I've already paid for 3.5 years of USC, and that's enough, which I very much appreciate that my parents had the ability to support my sisters and I through college. Like, it definitely gave us a little bit of an edge not having to pay for those loans after. But so I ended up starting a career in cancer and genetics. So I worked 8 years in the corporate world, basically bringing new technology to oncologists. So I was able to like kind of pair my love of biology and health and nutrition with new technology. But I was totally that nerd at parties being like, hey, did you guys hear that intermittent fasting is super cool and this is why it's working? Or have you heard of MCT oil or bee pollen? And people would be like, you're eating bee pollen?
That's for bees.
Yeah. So about 5 years ago, well, 2000, I guess it's longer now. Yeah, like the beginning of 2012, one of my girlfriends was like, you're getting annoying. Like, you need to go back to school and do this as your job. Or, you're helping all of our friends and this is all you talk about. So maybe make it a career, or try to make it a side hustle, or do something with it that isn't just like talking about it at like pumpkin carving parties or like the dinners out. So in 2012, I went back to school for just a holistic health coaching degree. I wasn't going to commit to like 30 or 40 grand back at like UCLA or any of those places, because I was a little bit more not sure if it was going to be successful.
Did you do IIN?
Yeah, so I started at IIN. I did a year of that. And then I started my business. I just started Instagramming. I started writing for other blogs, like friends of mine who were editors, like laurenconrad.com, and a couple of like girly like blogs that were not the Chalkboard Magazine, Well and Good, or Mind Body Greens of the world, but really just kind of the girly stuff and blogger stuff. And was really awesome. Like people started reaching out to me through those and trying to ask to work with me. So side hustle happened. I was the girl in a suit or scrubs at Cedars, and then walking across the street to Coffee Bean, putting on jeans and a blazer, or coming out of the bathroom with like my bag and being like, "Hi, I'm Kelly LeVeque, the nutritionist. Can I help you?" Or the health coach. And then it just started rolling. Like I started getting referrals, and my side hustle became my main hustle. And I was seeing enough clients to take it full time. My husband was a corporate attorney in a big law firm here in Los Angeles, and I was with like this big genetics company, and we, made great money, and our parents were proud of us, and we could probably buy a house and start a family. And we both were just like, this isn't what we want to do. And so he left the law firm and started to be a writer. So he was trying his hand at writing and writing screenplays. He's currently like writing a novel and a children's book. And it was like, we're in our apartment here in Los Angeles in the treehouse being like, how do we make this work?
And this was at the same time, you both at the, like pretty much the same timing?
Yeah, so he left his job first, and then I continued with my corporate cancer and genetics job for another year on top of that, just to kind of like save some chippy coins and like try to
have benefits for a little bit longer.
Yeah, and try to bridge the gap. And then it got to a point where I was like, okay, this is it. Like September of 2015, I was like, I got to take this full time. Like I'm putting so much effort into it, and it's going to be scary, and we're going to go month to month, and we're going to go down to one car, and we're going to just try and make this work. And we did it. And then I thought, okay, I need like another stream of income. I'm an hourly employee, count the hours in the week, and we're barely, making it here. So what do we need to do? And I jumped on a plane and flew to New York. I met with literary agents, and actually ended up getting one. And then in January, I went back and sold my book. So it was very fast after leaving, and I think it was looking for that new stream of income, looking to like go bigger, reach bigger, talk to more people, share with more people. And it was also one of those things where I was like, okay, if I want to do this, I got to like do it. So, yeah.
Can I, it's funny as so I'm going to put my my therapist hat on for a second, but what I hear in this, because I hear you attributing it to the skills you got in business and all this kind of stuff. But what I hear is the difference is you actually found your passion. Like once you hit on the thing you really cared about, you couldn't fucking stop talking about it. You're like, you're sitting in genetics meeting with people who are like, have you heard of bee pollen? Bee pollen's really good. And people are like, get out of my ear. I don't want to talk about this shit. And you're like, I can't stop. Yeah. I got to find a way to be able to make this my living.
It's true. Like I feel like there's so many things I want to do in a day and only so many hours. And yes, exactly right. And when I was in cancer and genetics, and I was if I was in a breast cancer surgery and we were going to like run the genes on the tumor, I was literally scrubbed in talking to the surgeon about their diet.
Totally. Yeah, so here's what I love. And this is exactly what I love about the whole idea behind Ignited, right? Is like, if we can get that, okay, and look at how many hurdles and how many things you have to jump over to be willing to do this. I mean, you talked about these things like they're nothing because they're just part of your story, so you just tell them to yourself. Yeah. But your husband's a successful lawyer. You have a great corporate job with, I'm assuming, a nice salary and a beautiful set of benefits. You've got the 2 cars, you're ready to have the kids and buy the house, and both of you are like, no, I want to write children's books and give people bee pollen. Yeah. Which is, for the world you're coming from, it's not exactly the same, but it's like, I want to be a witch and a hunter. Like our parents freaked out. It was not comfortable for them to tell their their friends that like their kids left their big jobs, and then their friends would be like, well, how's it going? Like, are they okay? Like, what's going, is it just a phase? Totally. And you're like, no, not a phase happening right now. Yeah. So that's a big thing. That's a big thing to be able to do. I remember back to Sophie with philosophy, just, it was the same sort of thing. Just like, I'm doing this for friends. I'm just going to try to see if it can be a business.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just loved helping people. And I couldn't stop talking about it. On my vacation, I'm making people plans of what to eat when and, how to move their bodies. And I remember being on a birthright trip in Israel on the bus, writing plans out for my friends back home, on my vacation. That's what I did for fun.
Yeah. I mean, if that's the crazy part is I kind of have to pinch myself. I'm like, this is crazy. I don't know what's happening. I know what's happening, but I'm just I feel really blessed, and I'm like, this is crazy.
Still in awe of it.
I just think I believed in myself enough 5 years ago to just chip away at it every single day and keep working at it. And it's almost like I rolled, I work to roll up the hill, and I'm getting some momentum coming down right now. And it just feels like, wow, okay, I'm not as scared that someone's not going to email that they want to work with me. I'm not as scared that, because back in the day when I first left my corporate career, it was okay, I should write as many articles as I can and blog posts for however many blogs, so that was my free press. And then it would drive people back to my site, and hopefully someone would sign up for 1 hour session. It's just, I have a little bit more, I'm a little more relaxed about the fact that it's going to be okay, which I think is a good feeling.
Trust.
Yeah.
So you mentioned to us that you and your husband he's writing, and he's writing full time. Yeah. Is he publishing now and stuff?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely he's in the process of that. It's every day is a challenge, and you're just, you're sending your script out to ICM and UTA and finding agents, and you're working the system. And it's crazy. It just so happened that when I wrote my first book, they get you with a copy editor. My publisher is HarperCollins. And so, you have an agent, you have an editor, and you have a copy editor, ghostwriter that looks at your stuff and makes sure that it's, that you can spell things correctly and that you're grammatically correct.
Your sentences make sense.
Yeah. And I'm a math and science person, and my husband is exact opposite. And so I'm reading, I write all the science down and write my, my book, and then they smooth it out, and I get it back, and I'm like, no, this is not right. They had inserted sentences don't you think the science is getting kind of sexy? And I'm like, I would never say that. What? So of course I'm sitting in our house, and I'm in tears, and my husband's like, oh God, give it to me. Let me see it. And we spend together 3 or 4 weeks rewriting the final draft of my book, and then have to send it to my editor without the ghostwriter on the email and be like, we were really unhappy with the final product. We really hope that you have a minute just to look at this. And thankfully, she had only started editing the first chapter, because once you turn it in, they're just that's it. You can't keep turning in new iterations of it. So, and then the email we got back was, this is all caps awesome.
Nice.
And it's so you, because he knows me so intimately. I mean, he's known me since I was so young, and he's the love of my life. And I mean, we're in it. We have good days, we have bad days, but we're so committed. And it's just, he knows me, and it came across, and I was able, and then my editor was when we go to write the second book, she wants a proposal for book 2. She's like, okay, you want to get the team back together? And it's crazy, because he could easily be ghostwriting for big publishing houses. He's just really good at it. So I'm really lucky that I have that. It's weird the way life works out, Could be married to an accountant, or I don't know.
I mean, you were married to a lawyer.
Yeah, I was. And that's crazy too. You have to just keep being how is this person changing, and how are we coming back together? And
that's the requirement for relationships, is that you both are growing and at the same pace and together, ideally.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's hard times. Obviously when I took my business out, and he'd been trying to write for a year, and then I get this pop of, success, and it's he's so happy for me, but at the same time, you all want your own success as well. And and there are times when I've wanted something for him so badly that I'm I would give up this and this and this, just to have you have that moment of whatever it is that you want in life.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah.
You guys have been together how long?
10 years.
10 years.
10 years.
I know. My parents were like, can you make some babies or what?
Is there a plan for that?
Heck yeah. I was like, can this book baby be over so I can have a real baby?
Yay. Great. So are you trying right now?
Yeah, we're going to go right now. Yeah, there you go. Out into the atmosphere. There it is.
Bam, you've said it. Now it's going to be manifested.
It's gone viral.
Yeah, no. It's
very cool. I mean,
it's exciting.
I'm a big advocate of talking about it because I think types of things, every type of thing you're trying to manifest, just saying it out loud and making it real, it just becomes real. And it's only ever helped me in all things, from recovery to healing to creating this life that I live and this life of my dreams. I mean, to the children, you know, like you make it into real, you make it into reality.
Yeah.
I love that.
Well, and I think the reason we don't talk about things a lot of times is because we're afraid of what other people might think or the expectations other people are going to get about it, you know, and fuck them. Like, honestly, it's that's just that simple. Like, who cares? This is my life. This is your life. You're trying to live to your fullest potential and to become the best
version of you.
Wife, partner, writer, nutritionist, mom you can be.
Yeah, no, I'm ready for that. I feel like a loud, crazy house with a bunch of kids would be like such a blessing. So I'm excited for that, you know, and I used to be like, oh geez, like how are we gonna, back in the day when what we considered success was like big paychecks, you know, it's now just like, you know, like how can we enrich our lives with relationships, with children, seeing our family, seeing our friends. It doesn't matter that we live in like the apartment we've lived in for 6 years, like this is our home and we've made it our home. So it is what it is.
But you know what the beauty is? Some of that stuff changes too. Like it's 2 of you. Mm-hmm. You don't need a bigger apartment.
I know.
And so
we can have an extra room. We can handle a baby here.
There you go. Yeah. Sophie and I have moved 3 times, and pretty much every time it's because we had another kid, if we're honest about it.
We were in a 1-bedroom apartment when we had Kai, and he had a bedroom in our dining room.
Our dining room became his bedroom.
And and then he became mobile. So a year later, so, you know, pregnancy and his first year of life, we were in this 1-bedroom apartment thriving. And then he started to crawl and move and walk, and we were like, shit. Yeah. And then we moved to a 2-bedroom, and then we got pregnant with Leo. And then I was like, there's not enough space. There's a dog and there's 2 kids. Like I need to move to the valley. So then we moved to the valley and had a backyard and a pool. And it was like, I can breathe. And then we were like, what are we doing out here? We got to get back to the city. And now we're here. And it's like, it's always evolving. It's all, you know, it's beautiful. That's life. And it's perfect for, as long as it works for you and your partner, it's perfect.
Yeah. Yeah, no, we're pretty lucky. We're happy here. So, and we can do it. And we've talked about it. Like we could do it for probably until someone was mobile.
Yeah.
You know? So,
I mean, if not longer, if you have a 2-bedroom.
Yeah. I mean, they have space. So.
Yeah. And the bottom line is you'll figure it out. Like every turn you take, right? Like when you decide to become a nutritionist, you didn't think you'd have a book. And when your husband decided to write, he didn't know that he was going to be writing with you. Like the important thing for me is to be open and stay confident in the fact that you'll be able to show up to the next phase and do what is needed without necessarily pigeonholing yourself to this is what it's going to end up looking like.
Exactly.
Yeah, no. Oh my gosh. If I would have like looked back 10 years when we got married or when we got together, and even like almost 6 years ago when we got married, I would be like, oh, for sure. 2.5 kids, a dog, a house. I'll be a stay-at-home mom. Mm-hmm. Like I had all these other things that I probably would have, that we talked about earlier in our relationship, that we just like grew up a certain way. And like, no, it's like I'm living my passion, and we talk about, I'm like, I could never give this up. Like, yes, can I pull back and be flexible but there's so much passion behind what I do that I have to keep doing it.
And that's going to make you a better mom, I think. I
think so too.
Having your own passions and showing your kids that you love something so fully and that you show up to it every day. I think that's such a beautiful gift to show them that drive and that excitement and that zest for something that you care about.
Totally.
Absolutely. So there's a new book in the works. There's a new non-book baby, hopefully, in the horizon. And what are some of the things that, like, we're going to have some questions here in a minute that we ask everybody, but anything else that's going on in your life right now that, I mean, I'm really interested about this whole working with your husband. Sophie and I really never worked together. I helped her set up philosophy when it first started, but then we totally set out on our own paths. And, you know, working with your partners, it can be a challenge sometimes too.
Yeah. I mean, even just thinking back to like when I first like left my corporate career, and he had been here in our apartment, like writing his stories, and he had his like office space on our big kitchen table, and it was his like routine, and he would make his coffee and he would write, and then he'd go for a run or a surf and come back and write more. And sometimes he'd write until like 1 a.m, but it was like his space kind of. And then when I started seeing clients via Skype, and then we're sitting at the kitchen table together and he's writing, and I'm like, hey babe, like, do you want me to make more coffee, or like, should I make us some breakfast? And he's like, shh.
Totally. I'm not that guy.
Shh, like, leave me alone. And we still have to kind of work on that, because I'm always like, what are you doing? Can we play? And he's like, no, we can't play. Like, I have to work. Like, you have to respect this time and space. And at first I think I was really annoying to him, and we had to get used to it. And like now we have this like flow where I do see a lot of clients outside of my house, and I do, it's kind of like going back to my old career where I was driving around to like doctors and hospitals, and now I'm like driving around to clients or movie sets or whatever, depending on what the role is and what the client is. So it's good. I do get some time out of the house, and he does have his like work days. And then when I am home and it's cloudy and rainy, and he's like, oh, this is fun. Like we've kind of gotten into our rhythm, but I think it just depends on how we're each doing. Like if he's rolling and you know, no writer's block, knock on wood, and he's just like flowing, we can kind of like flow together anywhere. But just like, you know, it depends on your mind. It also like just depends on the lens in which you see your life in that given moment.
Perspective. It's always perspective.
So, and, you know, I've taken on things. The thing is like, he is an attorney. So like, I'll take on things that require like a contract, and someone sends me a contract. I'm like, hey babe, I have this contract. I need to like figure it out by tomorrow. And he's like, God damn it. Like, I don't want to be an attorney. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm not going to pay some attorney to like look at this. So you have to, because you don't want to overcommit and underdeliver. But I was really excited about it. I'm like, oh my God, I would love to host the nutrition training program for My Body Green. Like Dr. Hyman, are you kidding me? Dr. Lippman, this is so cool. They each have all their like functional medicine hours of training. And then I do 8 to 10 hours of scripted, like, this is how you have a green kitchen. This is the difference between like paleo, keto, Whole30, like popular diets, elimination diets, this cool like program. But when I said yes to it, I didn't realize that 1 hour of script for a teleprompter that I was required to write was 30 pages. Wow. So I said yes. And then in 6 weeks had to deliver like hundreds of pages of stuff. And then of course I was like, babe, I wrote the science, but if you could just help me write the script out, that would be so great. And he's like, that's you know, so he loves me, which is great. And he like, you know, will go to bat for me, and he
always steps up, it sounds like.
He does. And he might, there might be a lot of cuss words at first, like, you gotta be. But then after that, he's like, I'm glad you did that. That was good for your brand. And it was good practice for him. And, you know, and we always joke, like, I mean, we're 50-50 in everything. So it really is like his business is my business is his business. But he does like to separate, because you don't want to go on a date and be like, so did you get that contract signed for whoever? You want to be like, how are you feeling? What's going on? What do you want? What do we want? Like, or you want to just like joke about stupid stuff and have a glass of wine and be like flirty, you know?
Mm-hmm. Totally.
So
I love the honesty about the fact that it doesn't always look like the movies. It's not always like, you know, you come to him and say, hey, this great opportunity came up, and he was like, you know, I've been just looking to take a break from my own work and help you do your work. How glad am I that this is the way it is? But that the important thing is you respect each other and you know that you're in it. And so, you know, you get over bumps in the road. That's just how it is. I think people too often believe that it's always smooth.
Oh, geez. No, I would say it's more speed bumps than it is smooth.
Yeah.
Like it's never what it looks like. We'll just put it that way.
In anything.
I completely agree. So we've got 5 questions we ask every one of our guests. Sophie, will start you off.
Okay. What is the best advice you have ever received?
And that, like, following your dreams and taking a risk on yourself is the best risk you'll ever take.
Nice. Do you remember who told you that?
Yeah, it was my dad's sister, Meg. She's just like kind of the hippie in the family, and she was like, just go for it. Who cares? What's going to happen? Like, you could always get your job back, and cancer and genetics, if it doesn't work out. So
nice.
Like, okay.
Go Meg.
Go Aunt Meg.
Yeah. The youngest of 8 kids is always the hippie, right?
What has been your proudest moment to date?
I'm marrying my husband. Probably my wedding day. Yeah.
Very cool. That's a good proud moment.
Snagged him. Didn't know what he was getting.
Yeah. What has been one of your most challenging or difficult moments?
I would say between IIN and deciding to go back to UCLA. So I went back and did all like my pre-med science and all my nutrition courses. And it was actually like, I mean, you guys talk a lot about like labels and my whole thing was I was really insecure about the fact that I just had a health coaching degree and I was going to write a book. And I knew that like a lot of these classes weren't up to speed and they were like maybe 5 years, 7 years behind because the publisher who writes the book is behind and the studies that they're sharing in it are from a while ago. And the teachers that are teaching it learned what they learned 30 years ago. And, but I just had this like, I had been working with MDs like who had fellowships on top of 14 years of school. And I felt like, oh my God, like I need letters behind my name. No, how is anyone going to trust me? And I feel like this is something I like kind of struggled with for 3 years leading up to the point where I was just like, forget it. I'm just going to pay for it. And I'm going to figure out how to pay for it. And I'm going to go back to school at night. And so it all kind of happened at the same time where I was seeing clients. I was the sole income in the house. I was paying for UCLA and I was writing a book all in the same year. And it was a very trying time because I didn't have a moment for myself. Like yoga was out the window. Cooking dinner for my family was out the window. We were at the Whole Foods Hot Bar. I mean, we live behind the Whole Foods Hot, so it's real easy, but I mean, it was surviving a little bit. And that's, I don't think people realize, but it really came down to me just, being insecure. Like I knew enough. I had spent 10 years reading studies from PubMed research, or 8 years reading PubMed research studies. Like I knew how to decipher a good study from a bad study design, like significant p-values. I knew what I was looking for when I'd mined the research, but there was something to be said about people's expectations of what they think is good enough and me just feeling insecure. And so it was a very tumultuous time for me because I was sitting in classes where they were like, yeah, let's talk about plant sterols and margarine. And I was like, I am literally paying $3,000 for this class. Yeah. This is really
painful.
Yeah. And it was also just, it was painful. And it was also like, when am I going to use, I'll use biochem for sure, but like, when am I going to use organic chemistry in what I'm talking about? Like, I don't think I'm ever going to use it, but I have to have it. And I'm spending hours away from my husband. I'm not seeing my friends and my family. And that was probably the hardest year in my career.
That sounds really rough.
Do you still have the stick figures with the chair formation from OChem though?
Labs are the best.
Okay, so obviously this podcast is called Ignited. We ask everybody, what is it that ignites you? What's a thing that happens in your life, either by virtue of just existing and it just keeps happening, or you have to make happen, it just sets you on fire?
I just am so ignited by my clients. Like when I sit down with someone and they're like, I have this goal by this date, I'm getting married. Or I just had someone yesterday who was diagnosed with 3 autoimmune diseases in one day. And I'm like, oh my God, we need to fix you. You need to feel well. You need to feel good. And having, because I'm math and science, like everything's on a timeline for me. And I want people to feel a certain way by a certain time and deliver. It's almost like delivering results. And so I'm really, like I don't think I could ever not see clients. Yeah. It's, I don't know. It's just like my way of giving back kind of. So, and it's like learn things with clients because you're constantly learning and things are always coming up and new things. And then I'm going to study about something specific that like I had a 32-year-old with gout and I'm like, you're too young for this disease. And then I'm deep in the research of like, what are people saying is like the main culprit and cause of this? And that's cool because now I know about gout. Totally. And like, I could be like, I could do an Instagram post about gout.
Boom.
It's all
now go buy the book.
It's all about the IG. Last one.
Self-care ritual.
Oh, what's so funny is I think the faster my life gets and the more that happens, the more I crave yoga. Like I have to have it. Like I don't even care. I mean, there are times when I'm like, I'm at OTF or Soul Cycle and that's fun but there is nothing like getting off the mat when a class is done. And I think it has also to do with the fact that I'm not very good at spending time meditating. I've gotten really into breath work, but I'm not very good at meditating. I'm such not like fast-paced, but I just like people. Like I want to be around people. I don't want to sit and be quiet. I really never need alone time. My husband's the exact opposite. He's like, hey, you leave me alone for 5 seconds. But yoga is that thing where it's a meditative movement for me. And the 5 minutes of Shavasana at the end is just like, I pay hundreds of dollars for this.
Awesome. It's magic.
So, that's my happy place.
Yoga. How often do you get it?
Probably like 4 days a week.
Nice.
Where do you go?
I go like kind of a lot of places. I like Core Power on Wilshire. I used to teach there for a little while. I like, but I normally am at Yoga Hop. I started at Maha when I was a sophomore at USC. So that was way back when. I mean, I was 2002. I mean, date yourself. So I've had a really long yoga practice. It's helped me through really bad breakups in college. It's helped me to get the confidence to quit my job. It's helped me deal with friend issues. Like anytime I've had an issue, I feel like I find so much clarity on my mat.
100%.
Awesome.
Yay.
Very, very cool. Cool. So thanks for being so transparent with us and talking about everything that's going on. We got the scoop.
Yeah, it's so nice to see you guys.
You too.
Really, really nice to see you. Congrats on this. You're writing the proposal. You're already working on the second book.
The second proposal. Yeah. All so right. I'll find out. I mean, it's cool because it's like from my editor. So it's not from my agent being like, let's ride the wave of sales. My editor is like, let's write a second book on body love.
Nice.
So I'm like, okay, we have some buy-in.
Awesome.
Yeah. So it's cool. So.
Very cool. Thank you so much. Have a great rest of your day. Good luck with everything.
You guys too.
Thanks for joining us on Ignited.
Perfect. Bye.
Bye.
Bye now.
Thank you, everybody, for listening to the Ignited podcast. We were so happy to have you along for this ride. Please go and subscribe to this. Leave us a review. We love hearing from you. And if you want more, don't forget to go to ignited.com, where all the podcast episodes are available with show notes and so many of the little details and links from each one of these interviews. And you can look at all the future events that we have going on, all the things that make Ignited so special, even beyond this recording. Again, thank you so much for joining us. We will see you next week.